Most people today have the attention span of a toddler, including you and including me, which is an embarrassing fact to admit. Our attention spans today are worse than ever before, and that's not because of increased diagnosis of ADD or ADHD. It's because modern technology, especially social media, and especially short-form content like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, have trained us to only pay attention to something for a few seconds before we shift our attention to something else, another video or another post on Instagram. Most young people today could not read one page of a book without getting distracted, looking away, reaching for their phone, or thinking of something else. And this is not normal. Your brain adapts to whatever you're doing. So if you're watching endless TikToks or Instagram Reels or whatever, the connections in your brain literally change to make you more efficient at watching short form content and less efficient at paying attention to more challenging, longer content or activities. Not to mention that short form content is extremely addictive. The guys who design these apps and these videos have tested every possible format to make you pay attention to the full video and keep you scrolling for as long as possible. The extreme novelty of these videos is really rewarding for your brain. So you might have heard of the chemical dopamine, and every time you scroll to a new video, your brain is bombarding itself with dopamine, which makes you hooked. It makes you want to keep watching these videos over and over and over. And if you have some level of self-awareness, you probably kind of wake up mid-scrolling session and think to yourself, what am I doing? Like, I've been scrolling for like 30 minutes, just doing nothing, just consuming. Our attention has been hijacked by these platforms that know how to take advantage of our brain's natural dopamine system to make us fully addicted to these apps. And I'm not exempt from this at all. I've had various periods where I intentionally barely used social media apps because I was wasting too much time on them. But when I come back to them, they're like more addictive than ever before, and it's even harder to leave them. You've seen all these stupid videos of like Reddit posts with a Minecraft parkour or Subway Surfers on the bottom of the video. And it's almost like comedic. We're like children, totally engrossed in the video and unable to drag ourselves away. This is a huge problem. You need focus to get anything important done. The problem is we're getting to the point where we can only hyper-focus on these short videos and almost nothing else. You can't achieve difficult or important things with constantly scattered attention. If you want to study for school, then obviously it's going to be harder to focus if you have your phone right next to you distracting you. And in the gym, if you want the most effective workout possible, you really need to focus on nailing your form, feeling the right muscles contract fully. You can't bring that intensity to a set if you're listening to like some gamer podcast or something while listening. You need either music that helps you focus or ideally nothing at all. I used to constantly distract myself. Like if I was walking to university, I'd be listening to music or a podcast while I'm on a run or at the gym, same thing. There was rarely just silence, just me and my thoughts. And that is so crucial. Silence is like our natural state. And by always listening to something, I was making myself less aware of my surroundings. I didn't appreciate the beauty of the world around me because my attention was turned inwards, hearing the words in my ears, but often also thinking of something completely unrelated. So I wasn't properly paying attention to anything. I was walking through the world without seeing it, listening to a podcast without really hearing it, thinking random thoughts without fully allowing them to develop because the podcast or music was playing at the same time. Like, what a state to be in. And this is the mess that most people are in almost all day, every day. It's actually such a blessing to turn the sound off, put your phone away and just sit there in the quiet, ideally in nature, and let your thoughts actually play out in your head and actually get to know yourself. I know that sounds crazy, but most of you don't actually know yourself. The thoughts that are in your head have just been implanted there by other people and the media. And when you remove all of that, you allow your brain to actually generate its own thoughts. And it's a weirdly peaceful feeling. Plus, you can actually pay attention to the world around you and notice things that you had never noticed before. So I've talked about how short form content and social media are ruining your attention span. I've talked about how you shouldn't be constantly stimulating yourself by always listening to something or always distracting yourself on your phone. Just turn it off and exist with no sound playing in your ears, no scrolling on your phone. And try to eat food without using your phone. Nearly all of us have become used to eating while being on our phones, especially if we don't live with our family. And if you do use your phone phone or your iPad or whatever while eating dinner with your family that your parents have cooked for you, that is incredibly rude, and you should feel bad about that. Consider how your parents feel when they see you paying attention to TikTok with your headphones on instead of paying attention to the meal that they have lovingly prepared for you, or even acknowledging their existence. Luckily, my parents never allowed phones or iPads at the dinner table, but I feel bad for every time that I wasn't present while eating with them, when I was thinking about other things or watching the TV, which unfortunately has been allowed in my parents' house in recent years. Every time I make a meal for myself, I usually have my phone on the table so that I can watch something while I'm eating. And if I'm self-aware enough in that moment, I'll put the phone across the room and just eat my food mindfully instead of half eating and half mindlessly consuming content. I'm in the process of trying to cut down stimulation as much as possible so that my brain has space to generate its own thoughts and I can just have quiet, and I'm not constantly receiving the thoughts of someone else through my phone. And I highly recommend you try the same. Like, pay attention to where your attention is going. Are you watching something while you're eating? Do you have your phone on while you're trying to study? Are you listening to something while you're working out or just walking around? Do you just lay in bed scrolling, doing absolutely nothing productive? In my opinion, we need to massively reduce our multitasking. When we're doing something, we should just be doing nothing other than that one thing. Just cooking, or just eating, or just studying, just working out, or just reading. Not reading and checking your phone every 2 minutes. You need to develop the ability to focus on one thing and doing it properly with 100% of your attention. This ability to focus is a superpower that will separate you from the herd, because 99% of people today cannot focus at all, and it's no surprise because their phones have literally stolen their ability to focus. You need to separate yourself. It's rarely good to be a part of the herd. They're docile and easy to control. They follow social trends because that's just what's easy. They don't really have any original thoughts because other people's thoughts are constantly implanted into their brains through their phones and social media. Here's exactly what you need to do. Identify the little parts of your day where you can stop using your phone. Like when you go to the bathroom, don't bring your phone with you. When you're eating food, especially with other people, don't use your phone, just eat. And since focus is a skill, you need to practice focusing. Set aside a bit of time every day to work on some task with singular focus. Reading a book is a great example. So you start with just like 10 minutes. And the important thing here is to turn your phone off, put it in another room, get your paper book and just read for 10 minutes, nothing else. Notice how hard it is to get through even one page. Catch yourself every time you get distracted and come back to the book. And after the 10 minutes is up, recap with yourself what you just read. What are the most important lessons you learned if it's a non-fiction book, or the most important story points if it's fiction. And if you want to remember what you're reading, you have to pay attention. This is your focus practice. You'll probably feel annoyed with yourself that you can't seem to finish even one paragraph without thinking about something else, and you need to feel that annoyance. Recognize that this isn't right. You should be able to focus. Let yourself get a little bit angry at the fact that you can't focus, and make the decision to resist against the forces that want to destroy your focus, that want to make you scatterbrained and pacified by scrolling and unable to complete any important task. And you resist these forces by refusing to engage in the actions that they want you to engage in, which is mindless scrolling and constant consumption. They want you to just be hooked on their apps so that you keep giving them more ad revenue, and they can brainwash you with whatever messages they want to implant in your brain because you're listening and you can't drag yourself away. Every time you catch yourself scrolling Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts or Snapchat, make the decision to refuse to give them what they want. You need to take back control over yourself and your mind, which they have hijacked and taken from you. So the two most important takeaways from this video: eliminate constant stimulation and intentionally practice your focus every day. I hope you understand now how serious this problem is, and you understand that you have to resist against it. You have to take back control over your own mind from these social media companies that have taken your attention from you, and you have given it to them willingly in exchange for the pleasure of using their apps. Everyone who did anything great with their lives was able to do so through focused attention. No one who is a chronic TikTok consumer will produce anything of value in the world. And listen to this last point because this is important. You need to become a producer rather than a consumer. Have you ever produced anything yourself, or have you simply consumed your entire life? Have you made a YouTube video, a piece of art, a tweet, a video game? The consumers are not the ones who shape the world, it's the producers. Consumers are the ones who are moved and controlled by the producers. Do you want to be one of the sheep or the shepherd? Once your eyes are open, it's clear to see who is in which category. The sheep have no control over their attention, and the shepherds control their own attention and the attention of the sheep.